Hey there, my wonderful viewers. Uh, I wanted to make a video about train crossings and specifically train crossings being blocked. Uh, this isn't just a local issue. Uh, I encountered this many years ago on different places I've lived. The same thing has come up over and over again. And when I was fairly young, I was delivering with this older guy who was a former police officer, and he was commiserating over being in traffic, being stuck and blocked in because of a train. And he said that they could get ticketed. The train operator could get ticketed, or the rail operator could get ticketed for blocking the rail line for more than 15 minutes. There was no internet at that time, and so I really didn't know. I took his word at it. It was an interesting thought, but it happened often enough that it was a huge problem. So now it's currently something that I encounter quite often at this specific crossing, and it's become a big enough aggravation to people that they're complaining about it. And it's not a single event. There's across the nation. There's different. Well, there's thousands upon thousands of rail crossings and blockages, and it's kind of interesting because of what it is. Uh, Language in an interstate commerce clause and case law establishes preemption where local and state agencies cannot regulate interstate commerce. Otherwise, a coast to coast railroad would be subject to thousands of local and state regulations and codes. And that's basically what it is. In the Thief River Falls Times in Minnesota, Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. And it's by the editor of the paper, April Shinoa, I think is how it's pronounced, who's the editor. Perennial issue in Thief River Falls. Railroad crossings blocked for more than 10 minutes. At its committee meeting of the whole meeting Tuesday, March 4th, the Thief River Falls City Council discussed the matter. And the latest discussion ensued after Canadian Pacific Kansas City train blocked all of the Thief River Falls railroad crossings a couple of weeks ago for an extended period of time. 8th, 3rd, 1st, and Norris Streets were all blocked. 8th and 3rd Streets are also State Highway 1 and 59, respectively, in Thief River Falls. The Pennington County State Aid Highway 8 railroad crossing near Challenger Elementary was also blocked. It would not have been easy for the fire and police departments to get around the city at the time. Mayor Mike Lawrenson noted that the options were the Greenwood Street underpass and the emergency underpass, only to be used by emergency personnel. Lawrenson called after the crossings were blocked for 45 minutes. He estimated some of the crossings were blocked for over an hour. Lawrenson also acknowledged some traffic was able to pass over some of the railroad crossings occasionally in that time frame when there was some train movement back and forth over the crossing. It's one of the most frustrating parts of it is the train will go back and forth, and the crossing arms will open, and then a few cars will get across, and then it'll close back up. Or the train will start to move, and you're sitting there waiting, but then it stops, and the crossing never gets open. And a lot of people are rushing all over the place to get across the crossing. The problem is there's also bridges and a river dividing this town, so it's kind of a mess to get to an underpass, which is all the way on the other side of a town. And when it's time for people to go to work and be at work on time, it can get kind of hectic. You know, you shouldn't have traffic jams in a small town, but that's just the way it is. The article goes on to say that according to the Minnesota Department of Transportation, trains are not to block public roads or streets longer than 10 minutes. Block crossings should be reported to the railroad at the contact number listed in the blue and white emergency notification sign at the crossing, as train dispatchers may be able to resolve the problem. Well, that's like saying if you have a problem, go talk to a tree. Nothing's going to change. It's just the way it is. And yeah, it's very frustrating. Um, yeah, then it goes on to give some of the issues that it's caused for businesses and employers and people like that. Police Chief Marissa Adams said the situation is frustrating for law enforcement since they want to cite the railroad for blocking the railroad crossing longer than 10 minutes. However, law enforcement has also been told that the railroad doesn't have to abide by state citations. Yeah, that makes total sense. She questions the logic of citing the railroad for blocking the railroad crossing for longer than 10 minutes if the railroad isn't going to abide by the state citation anyway. Adam has talked directly with local CPKC staff and resolved some issues in the past. Now here's where it gets interesting. Adam was referring to prior research conducted by the city attorney's office. City Attorney Delray Sparby recalled an Illinois court case where it was ruled federal law overruled state law regarding block railroad crossings. He offered to look deeper into case law. No fault on the city attorney, but I don't think that's going to go very far. He can research for years and it's not going to change anything unless laws are changed. And the article goes on further to talk about actual impacts. One of them being the golf course, which is totally blocked off. There's no way to get into the golf course, and it's further up from Dakota Junction. And if the train is blocking that, there's no way anybody can get out of that golf course. So they just have to stay there and either play more golf or sit at the club. The whole situation is kind of interesting. I don't really have an opinion either way, other than maybe they need more overpasses, underpasses. But of course, that's very expensive and very disruptive in the short term. Um, I just like trains. I like the whole thing about trains and commerce and the way things move, and transportation is kind of interesting. And I just wanted to share that and find out what your thoughts are on train crossings and the frustrations you might have being blocked in traffic because of a train. I guess my main question is, have you been late to work or to an appointment due to a train crossing? I think that's one of the big issues with a lot of people. I mean, it just makes you crazy when you're stuck or you can't turn or you can't move. You just have to sit there and wait. The funny thing about the one in Thief River is that they'll block crossings and they'll start to move and you have hope, and then every bit of hope that you had will be dashed because the train will stop after it's moved a few cars down the rail and you're still stuck there, and you waited maybe 10 minutes and now you have to figure out a way and go, turn and go down the wrong way in order to go find a crossing so that you can go further down miles away so you can make a turn where there's actual open crossing. Very crazy. And I'm sure it's like this in other places too. So it would really be interesting to hear your thoughts on that and what you've had to do to get around and not endanger yourself or other people trying to get to an open crossing. Uh, yeah, I don't. In this article, nobody talked about that. I mean, people going down the wrong way to get to a place they can turn around and head out to a different direction so they can go somewhere else. Just the chaos is just incredible. I really appreciate you listening thus far, and I hope you're having a good day. Click like, subscribe, and I'll put out more videos. Thank you.